Hi, welcome to another edition of 1 in 15. As ever, I'm going to let my guest introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Nikki Foster Kruczek. I'm a life coach, among other things, and a writer. And I have a specialism in trauma and grief. And at the moment, I'm doing a lot of work with people on their struggles within COVID.
Cool. Thank you, Nikki. That's great. It's great to have you. So the question I've been asking everyone is what is the one big thing that's affecting you? Maybe something that's been brought to light because of COVID, maybe something that was there already that's become more obvious, or maybe a brand new thing.
So my one big thing is self-care. That really elusive thing that everybody really deep down knows they need to be doing, but probably aren't doing as well as they might.
Sure.
Yeah. So, everything and anything that just helps you recharge your batteries is self-care. And I'm not talking about wearing a face mask and washing your hands. Way beyond that. I'm talking about getting rest. I'm talking about eating well. I'm talking about getting what you need to help yourself be fully healthy and fully well, physically, mentally, and emotionally every day.
Yeah. That's huge at the moment, isn't it? Because I'm really conscious of people who are under much more. I mean, we're all under much more stress, and arguably, we're under a lot of trauma because of COVID, and this idea that that we've got to look after ourselves, but we've got so many other pressures as well on top of us. Oh no. So Nikki, there's some people who self-care is something that they've been really aware of. One of the things I've been reflecting on is people who perhaps had some mental health issues are arguably more prepared to deal with the current trauma because they know that they've got to look after themselves. They've got practices there already to mitigate, to protect themselves from low mood and so on and so forth. What are some of the big challenges that people are facing, and how can they start to meet them?
So I think the thing that a lot of people struggle with seems to be just the idea that they're worthy of looking after themselves. There's a whole load of stuff about feeling like you've got to earn it, like it's a reward, like it's something that you can do when everything else is finished.
Sure.
But I want to turn that upside down and say, actually, no, you don't function well out of a place of emptiness. You function well out of a place of fullness.
Sure.
So turning it upside down and saying, well, actually, no, self-care needs to be first. Self-care needs to be the thing that I do that is not negotiable every day.
Yeah.
And like I was saying earlier, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be little tiny practices every day, from drinking a cup of coffee and just having a bit of peace and quiet to getting some exercise. It just needs to be little things each day.
Sure.
That we just stick with.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by this because it's so obvious, and we all know it. We all know that we can't pour out of an empty cup. We know that if we don't look after ourselves, we can't look after the people that we feel responsible for. But it's such a common trait in the human species to put that kind of looking after yourself behind, as you say, to it's almost like a luxury item. I've got to work, I've got to do this, that, and the other, rather than rest, exercise, eat well, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's so common, how do we challenge that in a way that, because it's not like you're telling people this and it's a revelation, they know it. because that's the issue here with self-care, isn't it? Is not that people need to know. It's like, oh, I suddenly need to look after myself. We know that, but we just don't do it. So are there any kind of proof ways to get people to take it seriously?
I think a time like COVID, when we've all been in lockdown and we've all not been able to do very much really,
Yeah.
Is actually a good time to think about this stuff, because it throws into focus your health and your well-being, and your family's health and well-being. So it brings all that into focus.
Yeah.
And it just is a time to be able to say, okay, so what do we do? How do we function that is going to keep us well?
Yeah.
And I want to encourage people to ask those questions outside of COVID and say, okay, so in the pandemic, we operated in a way that was unusual for us, but we all adjusted to that. So why can't we apply that same thinking to life outside of that? And okay, so what is it? How do we operate in life in a good way, in a positive way, in a way that promotes our well-being?
Yeah.
All the time. And I don't have a magic wand, and I can't make it just happen for people, sadly, because that would be nice, wouldn't it? But what I can do is work with people to look at the things that get in the way of that for them, and help them to overcome them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really helpful. I mean, in my conversation as a coach, one of the most common topics of conversation is time management. Actually, it often boils down to time management in different ways, sometimes really subtle, because that's it, isn't it? The reason that self-care gets put at the end of things is, if I have time, I'll do it. And if we make it a priority, and we make it one of the things that, as you say, we do before anything else, then if we can't do everything, something else is the thing that we drop. And so there are things about pressures, understandings, the things we feel obliged to do, the things we actually want to do, all that kind of stuff.
So I think one of the things that I try to do with people that I'm working with is to look at their daily to-do list and say, okay, so job number one on that to-do list every single day needs to be your self-care.
Yeah.
And don't let it fall off that list. Just put it at the top of the list. And you don't have to have actually done it first thing as the very first job, but plan for it first thing. Yeah. So the first task of every day is plan that self-care. And it could be, I'm going out for a coffee with a friend. It could be, I'm going to have a nice hot bubble bath tonight. It could be anything, but just plan it in so you know it's there coming.
Yeah.
But making it that priority is a habit you can build. And I think that's the key to all things self-care, is it's about building habits. And sometimes we have to change how we operate ever so slightly in order to build that new habit.
Yeah.
But little and often is definitely the way.
Yeah. And there's something I think as well about intentionality. So, having that long soak in the bath, but having a conversation with yourself where you say, actually, this is part of looking after myself, rather than I just need to get clean, or going for that walk. And again, the same thing, this is actually, I need to clear my head. I need to get a bit of exercise. I need to, get the heart rate going a little bit. This is an intentional good thing. It's not a waste of my time. That kind of priority is really, because a lot of the things we do, you've already alluded to, in self-care are small and feel insignificant unless we acknowledge the power that they hold. And so again, for some of my clients, that's the paradigm shift they need to get, is actually, getting up and taking an hour before you start work, where you have a nice relaxing breakfast, is a good use of your time, and it's setting you up for the day. But maybe one of the things you need to do is just tell yourself that that's why you're doing it, rather than, I can't get myself going in the morning. Yeah. So those little twists are sometimes quite revelationary, aren't they?
Absolutely. And there's something about permission, and actually giving yourself permission to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm a great believer in the permission slip idea, that you basically just write yourself a little note saying, I give myself permission to do my walk today, to have a bath today, to enjoy my coffee break. You know, just I give myself permission to do my self-care.
I've not heard that. I really like that.
Okay. Yeah, you literally write yourself a little note. Just I give myself permission to, and then you just stick it on the fridge or put it in your diary or keep it somewhere you know you can see it. And whenever you think, oh no, I'm going to put that off till later, you come back to it and say, oh no, but I gave myself permission, so I am allowed to do this. I'm going to do this.
I can see that being quite revolutionary, really subtly. I mean, in my household, there's 6 of us here, and I'm thinking actually, I think I not only could do with some self-permission slips, but actually we could do that across the house where we give each other permission. They're thinking of my school age children who are working really hard in a new context, and one of the conversations I've had with them, particularly with the older ones, is, you know, I want you to have a break. I want you to relax properly. I want you to switch off, which is really counterintuitive when they're a bit vague and they're not, you know, they're not working perhaps as hard as they might have been in school, or as you might hope that they would. But so actually what I've been doing is I've been saying, you have permission to stop, because I know, you know, as a coach, as a youth worker, I know that actually that rest is just as important as the applied kind of mental agility. So that's brilliant. So we've talked. So this permission slip idea is maybe something that people can take away and apply. And are there any like little tips? We're maybe coming towards the age of 15. I don't know, because we've had to. If anyone's listening, we've had to pause this recording a number of times because of the internet connection. So it's all guesswork now. But yeah, are there any other things that somebody, if they're listening to and they're thinking, I'm not great at self-care, I'm not great at that, giving myself permission, making it a priority, are there anything else they could try today that might work?
Give yourself 5 minutes, because who hasn't got 5 minutes somewhere in their day? Give yourself 5 minutes, set a timer on your phone or your kitchen timer, and sit with a drink for 5 minutes and drink the drink and just enjoy it and be intentional about it and notice how it tastes and notice how your body is, and just notice all of that kind of, am I more relaxed? Am I okay? You know, just give yourself 5 minutes and intentionally drink a drink. It actually will open your eyes a little bit as to how important it can be just to take a minute. So you can do that right now. And you know, other things, put it at the top of your to-do list every day. Just one thing. Just do one thing every day that's just for you.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I mean, I say one of the things I often have conversations with clients about is intentionally noticing what's going on. So, you know, I can think of a client who might try that taking 5 minutes thing, and I would say to them, well, notice what's going on there. And what they might notice is guilt that they've stopped, that they're not working productively. They might notice that how exhausted they actually are, and that's all stuff that they can work with, or they can work with a coach to kind of to tackle. So that's really, really useful. And there's loads of academic study about this. I mean, there's loads of stuff with schools about, you know, the working. Taking 5 minutes at least every hour is really, really helpful for our brains, for our physiology. But again, the gap between what we know to be true, what we know having experienced it to be true, and actually making it habit forming can be quite huge, can't it? So I found it really, really helpful. I'm going to work out how I can use a permission slip myself, because I know I'm not always great at giving myself permission, even though I'm a practitioner of this stuff. And that's really helpful, Nikki. We'll see whether this recording has worked. I'm going to pause it and say, well, play it. You know, we'll see what happens. But Nikki, it's been great. We'll include the details of your coaching business and other things, and I'm sure there's plenty of other things people can do. But that's great. If you're listening to this, take some time for yourself. You're really important. You can't care for people unless you care for yourself first. And we'll get through this if we take that kind of stuff seriously. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you.